Hey, what's up everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. In today's video, I want to show you a way to make figure drawing a lot easier. So I've had obviously a bunch of requests on things like this, and it's always a complex topic, but this is the way that I can explain it in the most easy to understand way to kind of work through it. Start off with a 1, 2, 3 method. And if you can draw an oval like this, if you can draw a bit of a wedge shape, if you had to break this down even further, it could be a bit of a box or another oval this way and an oval this way. Essentially what this is the torso and then the pelvic. And this will just draw like you ever played with action figures. Imagine the lower part of the action figure with the body and the legs ripped off. I know it's kind of gruesome, but hey, it happens to every action figure at some point in their lives. So essentially by doing that, there's our basic shapes. You know, you could really accomplish this with all ovals. And if you think of it that way, I think it helps you to go, okay, I got that down, I got that beat. Now what do I do? Now the thing that I do is draw the spine in there. You don't have to. If you notice, I kind of already started to draw these shapes with that kind of rotation or angle or bend to them. Whatever you feel most comfortable with. What I'm kind of picturing is that the chest line would come through here, solar plex down to the pelvic, and the front of the face, something like that. So that's what I was envisioning when I drew it. Now, what I'm trying to get, help people with is that if you can accomplish these basic shapes, the rest of it is much easier. So you've got the opening for the arms, and from there you have to study gesture drawing. The best thing to do is to do quick studies of the body, 1 to 5 minutes, probably. Start off at 5, work yourself down, do 1 minute sketches of the body. And what you're going to want to do is just really study the way that the weight reacts off the body. So if somebody's pushing off this leg right here, the counterweight, maybe this leg's back. So you're only going to get this information by doing gesture drawings. It's not just going to come to you. Maybe if you just have the ability to kind of feel that process out. But most of the artists that I know that are good at stuff like this, they refine their abilities by lots of figure drawing, gesture drawing. I wouldn't even recommend drawing from other artists. The only reason why I say that is because you'll learn things about their style, but if they're making mistakes in their fundamentals, then guess what? You'll probably copy those same mistakes. So it's okay to have fun and study your favorite artist, but draw from life whenever you can and create your own studies, your own sketchbooks and whatever. So, same thing with hand poses. It's like, you'll start to see that there's lots and lots of different ways that the hand reacts from person to person and pose to pose. So you just have to create lots of sketches of that to get a feel for it. So we'll say that this is what we're after. It's a pretty bad sketch, and I probably shortened the legs because I ran out of paper there, like I always do. Seems to be one of my artistic flaws there. I can never judge how much distance I have at the bottom, and I try to start forcing proportions. So I'd probably make the leg down here, the leg over to here, being that it's more of a comic book 8 heads tall kind of scenario. Okay, so that's my quick little sketch. It's not impressive, it's not meant to be, it's just to get an idea down. And then I can study it and I can go, well, for one, he doesn't have a hand. That's not cool. But the arm's unnatural, maybe the pose is a little too accentuated, whatever. But by doing these quick studies, you can study your work and grow from that process. Okay, so we'll do the, I don't know if I'm going to call it 1, 2, 3 method or whatever, but 3 main body masses. And I don't know who might have came up with this, if this is even a thing. I'm just telling you what I generally do with my artwork. Okay, so again, the head, now I'm kind of picturing that's looking right at us. And then I want to do a dynamic kind of feel. I don't ever want my stuff to just be plain and standing completely upright because, well, I traditionally draw artwork and science fiction type stuff. So, there's not a whole lot of people just standing around in my imagination, I guess. They're always doing something crazy and elaborate, and so my drawings need to reflect that, obviously. Okay, so here's our 1, 2, 3 method again. And, if I had to draw the spine, I would say it's doing something like this. If I had to draw the chest, it's going like this. I should always try to twist the shoulders. If you think of the head, the shoulders, and the pelvic, they should, right here you see they're all lined up. Well, that doesn't make for as interesting of a pose. So to shift that, I'll put the one leg opening over here more. I'll try to twist this pelvic shape like this. Sounds kind of gross, but hopefully you get my meaning. Okay, so I'll turn that like that, and then maybe, a leg up. Now, one of the trickier things I think to get right are the way that the legs connect to the pelvic. So that, to me, is a whole nother study. So one day or a week, I don't know, or months, whatever it takes you to learn, you go in at it and you study how the legs connect to the pelvic. And you hit it hard for a month or whatever it takes you to feel comfortable with that. And that's what I do. I repeat that process over and over again for everything that I do. So I get these questions on my YouTube channel and my DeviantArt and just different stuff, Facebook, whatever. And, people are asking me, how do you draw this? What do you do here? They want me to give them all these details. And forgive me for saying this, but oftentimes when there's a lot of overabundant amount of questions about the process, it leads me to think one thing, and that is you're not practicing enough. And I don't know, I don't want to be mean about that, and hopefully I'm not being mean by the sound of that, but what I'm saying is you're not going to find the magic, the golden egg, I don't know what you want to call it, but the thing that's going to outweigh your practice or your hard work. You have to do that. That's the answer. So to all these questions, half of the answers are just practice and sheer volume of drawing. So I don't know how else to explain it other than that. I mean, I know it sounds depressing sometimes that you have to put all this time in to get good, but that's really what it takes. I would say behind every great artists are stacks and stacks of sketchbooks, or digital files or whatever your style you're working in. So unfortunately that's the truth of that matter. So just lots and lots of practice, and then you start seeing the things that are improper and why they're improper. Because at first it all looks kind of like you're on the right track. Take any artist and have them pan back at their work from years ago, and they'll tell you that, man, that stuff sucks. I don't know what I was thinking, But what that is the progression and the fact that you're now visually seeing things that you weren't seeing then. So that just comes with lots and lots of producing work. Yeah, so like even this, it's like, why is this head straight up from the posture or whatever? I'm not saying it couldn't be that way, but it just doesn't look as interesting. So knowing that, let me see if I can adjust it and try to move it, tilt it, whatever. So I'll do that a lot too, where I'll sit there and take these poses and I'll try to rework them and see if I can make a good pose out of a bad pose. Which is really necessary, because the more you work professionally, the more you got to figure out ways to cut corners and save time. I work, a lot of my work is done in storyboards where the time intensiveness of it is insane, to where you have to figure out how to hurry up and draw something really quickly and get it done, because people are waiting on you to do some, pitch or animation of the work or whatever. So gesture drawing is very important for that. Like even that one, I know I'm blabbing here, so I probably went way over, and I don't know what this just took, but probably way too long for just a gestural concept. So, even though it's very rough and very crude, that's, just stacking these up is what's really important to start getting a good feel for the way the body works. So again, you know, I'll do another one where I do, let's try a totally different pose. Let's try down here. And I always start with the head. I know another question that I've had recently a couple times was, do you always start with the head? I've read that it's not right to start with the head, and maybe it's not. I can't say that I do everything correctly or right, but I generally start with the head. I don't know why. I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's just what I do. So I try to start with the body, and there's definitely certain poses that I start with the abdomen, but it's a lot more rare. I seem to always kind of visually place what my character is getting ready to do by the like even when I drew that head, I already had the vision that it was pointing down. I don't know why. It's just kind of where I'm at with the way that I envision my poses. But I'll tell you, like stuff like this, you know, these are the tricky ones for me. Like for instance, I don't often see somebody squatting down, looking down at the ground, you know, hands over their knees or whatever, maybe one knee like this. Here's the pelvic. I should have drew that in first, sorry. So there's the opening of the legs. And maybe this other leg is down to the ground and back. So I struggle with poses like this because it's not something I would see every day or even be able to find reference quickly or easily enough. Now keep in mind, that's why I have, what do I got? I got 3 cameras now. I got 2 cameras and I've got my computer camera. So this is, you know, we got cameras on everything luckily now, so it makes it a lot easier. But this is why. If I get a pose like this that's too tricky and I just can't nail it, guess what? I'm sitting around taking goofy pictures of myself and my family trying to get the right pose, and I've trained myself to be able to draw, you know, through that, because obviously, you know, I work out a little bit or whatever, you know, I'm a pretty buff guy. Not really. Anyways, but I can draw through myself and come up with a character that ends up, or a pose that ends up looking like a superhero. And you pretty much almost have to ignore a lot of the parts of the picture to even do that, because our proportions just aren't as hero-esque as we would like them to be. So, you know, that just comes with practice. So like that one, it's not really that great, but I could work with it, and then I start making changes. All right, chances are at this angle, this shoulder, you're probably barely going to see it. So if you do see it, you're just going to see a little bit of the shoulder. So I pull that all the way in over to here and see how it helps that perspective. Oops. I think it does anyways. Yeah, so I really think that method of drawing the 3 parts of the body like that really does do the trick. It makes it a lot easier to digest. Now, the other thing I want to address, and then I'll bring this to a close, is I had somebody say, I don't like drawing all the cones and cylinders and, you know, stuff. And that's why I mentioned the ovals in the beginning. Because, you know, I know that sometimes, like, to sit there and draw a leg like this, you know, seems crude, and you're like, why would you do that? Here's my answer to this. This isn't necessarily something you should use to say this is a leg, as much as it is to say that these are guides to where you're going to draw the leg. I think that the reason these techniques were developed to draw this way are a couple things. One would be proportion, to keep proportions consistent, to draw characters consistently. So that's why you do that. So even though it seems, I don't know, like let's do one where maybe a perspective shot. Let's try this. You know, I suck at these, but that's kind of the reason you need to practice things. So you got this perspective, you've got this upper torso, and see here, I'll start with the torso first, and I'll draw it as this big blocky shape. And the reason why I do perspective shots in these blocky shapes is because, for one, I'm not as good at perspective, so I go back to the basics, and that would be this very rudimentary square. Also, it's easier to draw this rudimentary square, series of squares, in perspective than it is figuring out the body proportions in perspective. So that's another reason you do it. So even though you don't like to do it, and I don't think any of us particularly enjoy drawing a bunch of squares in perspective, it allows for us to figure out our proportions more easily and more consistently. I guess that would be the main thing. So you start drawing. Trying to remember the old superhero. Was it Rom? I think it was Rom, and he was literally drawn like this. It's pretty funny. He was like a science fiction-y extraterrestrial Marvel character, if anybody knows the reference I'm making there. All right, so anyways, we're drawing Rom, and not to be confused with Ram, obviously. So, you know, there's the head, chest, and pelvic, and it's not proportionate, actually, in those areas right there. But then as we start to add the legs, you know, no, actually, it would have to come in more. I'm going to show how bad I am at perspective. It becomes a little bit easier to get all this in there. And I don't know, maybe you're just better at drawing without using these guides here. But if you're not, if you find yourself struggling, then this is something that you can do to kind of rectify that. So it's easy to say, okay, now from this perspective, you would see more of the top of the head. It's more easily adjusted as a big square shape like this. Let's do the hands on the hips kind of thing. So again, I'm drawing these really blocky, boring cylinders. See if I can even make this work. Circles for the shoulders. So pretty darn crude, you know. And then from this area, I don't even know how the feet would look from here. And see, this is where I would even pull reference. So I would combine even this with reference, because I'm just, like I said, I'm not the greatest at these kind of perspective shots. So it's better for me to use all the tricks of the trade, you know, to help me through it. You know, the other thing you got to remember is that all these things you're called to do at the drop of a dime. So you got all these techniques at your disposal to help you with that kind of situation. But all of a sudden the client or whoever you're working with, editor, client, customer, whatever, they call and say, you know, oh, we want this character in a different pose and scrap where you were already at. And, you know, a lot of times the funny thing is people make changes and they never change the deadline. It's funny how that works, but or in my profession, they actually push the deadline up on you, which is always lovely. But not complaining. If one of you guys are listening, I love the work. Thank you. All right, so there's our rough template, you know, and it's obviously crude. It looks like a, you know, little kid drew it or whatever. No offense to those little kids that are watching. But that gives you the basic, you know, building block of it. And then, you know, you can take your soft erase it down, see if I can refine it because I'm so embarrassed of it. So essentially, to answer your question, that's why you do it. I know that it's never fun, and that you get into drawing and you want to draw these amazing, you know, you want to draw Superman knocking Batman into next week or whatever the thing is that you're interested in drawing that day. And, you know, but it starts here with all this fundamental baloney, you know, that you've got to get down, or you're not going to be able to draw those really cool splash pages and pinups that everybody likes to do. So just the way it goes. See, and then now with this basic structure down, you can get into the fun stuff and go, okay, I want this guy to have, you know, muscles and whatever. He's a pretty chiseled guy, works out, does his pull hotties, and, you know, just start getting in here and playing around and figuring that out. And then this is where the study of all your anatomical, you know, stuff comes in. You know, do you know the muscle groups? And I shouldn't say do you know them. You don't have to necessarily know them, but you should have a good idea of how they work, where they start, where they end. You don't necessarily need to know the names. It's not a bad thing. You know, I think it's easier to commit to memory if you really study to that degree. Like, what's the one I just learned? Yeah, awkward. I don't know. Well, this is a bicep. I know that much. bicep, tricep, deltoid, pectoral, lataris, you know, whatever. It pretty much stops there. What's this one? Femoris? Anyways, yeah, so I need to learn them, and that's where I probably shouldn't even brought that up. So, but yeah, but I know basically where they, sorry, that was embarrassing. Basically where they start and where they end. So as I draw this out, I can kind of fake a little bit of a design, you know, to some kind of believability. It's not perfect. If you put this up next to a real picture of somebody, you'd realize real quick that it's not accurate, but hopefully enough to tell a story and to get to the next page or next panel of the artwork, or the next stage of this drawing, which would be shading and, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, so that's essentially why you do all that, so that you can layer all your work, do it in stages, do it to some kind of accurate level of speed and continuity through your drawing process. So you got to do all the boring stuff to make that happen. So yeah, so hopefully this has given you a little bit of insight into that and helped you with a little bit of that process. So try that 1, 2, 3 method. Just draw your head, upper torso, and then pelvic, and then practice drawing the limbs on there. Remember to do your 1 to 5 minute studies. There's great websites for that. I'm sorry I don't have any for reference that I could put, but you're welcome to comment in the section below. I know there's lots of them. Some that are strictly dedicated to just doing quick life studies or figure drawing studies. And yeah, that's about it. And then you know, apply that with everything. Do those 1 to 5 minute studies on faces. Do them on hair. Whatever it is you're struggling with that week. Just clock a bunch of hours in with that particular subject matter, and that's the secret sauce right there. So at any rate, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you watching. Be sure to let me know what you think of the videos, what you'd like to see in the future. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. As always, I thank you for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.